Hi, I'm Glo, and welcome to Glo's Kindred Kitchen. Today I'm going to share a recipe with you that I have made for years, probably 25, 30 years. And it's easy and it's delicious, and I've switched it up several times, but I thought this would be the perfect time of year to share this with you. And it's called Black Forest Pie. And when I first found this idea or recipe, if you will, it was in an old cookbook of mine, and she called it Black Forest Pie. So that's what I do. In her original recipe, she used just a regular pie crust. And you can use store-bought or make your own. In fact, I'll attach a recipe to my pie crust recipe. But today I'm going to do it with a saltine cracker crust. I like the flavor of the saltines with that saltiness, and this has a little bit of sweetness with it to go along with the chocolate pie in it, and then those kind of tart cherries. It's delicious. So anyway, let's just go ahead and get started. The crust is super easy to make. It's easier than a regular pie crust, so I thought this time of year this would probably be great for everybody. So the recipe calls for 1.5 sleeves of saltine crackers. So I've got 1 sleeve in here already, and I'm going to go ahead and add in, and I just eyeball it. That's about right. And you put it in your food processor. And I need to plug this in. I never plug my appliances in until I am ready to go. Too many accidents have happened over the years with people, and so that's just one of my safety
first.
Yeah. So I'm going to pulse this for about 15 times. I'll be right back after the 15th time, and we're going to go on to the next step.
Okay, Miss Paul.
Okay, well, I've pulsed this now for 15 times. And what I do before I remove my lid whenever I'm doing something that's crumbly like this is I tap down on this. And the reason I do that is to get the crumbs to fall down in here so I don't have such a mess when I'm taking my top off.
Good idea.
So then here, and let me show you what it looks like. Be careful when you put your hand down in there because that blade is very sharp.
I'm not putting mine in there.
No. So then I have here 3/4 of a cup of melted butter along with 1/4 of a cup of Karo syrup. And I just put it all in this 1 cup measuring cup because 3/4 and 1/4 equals a whole. And I just thought this would be easier.
All right.
Less cleanup. And also the Karo syrup will come out of here much easier because of the butter in here. It helps slide it right out. Let me just use my spatula here to get everything out. There we go. Now we're going to put our top back on. Click it into place. And then I'm going to go ahead and pulse this for 15 times, and I'll be back, and we're going to be putting this in our pie plate.
Sounds good.
Okay, so now I pulsed in the butter and the Karo syrup into the, already the processed saltine crackers. So I'm going to put this in my pie plate. This is a 9-inch pie plate. I'm just going to pour it in. Remove this blade. Put that over there. There we go. And I have my oven already preheating. And it's being preheated to 350 degrees. And we're going to kind of par bake this, if you will, in the oven, just till it kind of sets up nice. So I usually do it like 12 minutes for this particular type of pie, because we're going to be baking the chocolate pie in this as well in the oven. So you don't want to totally bake it. So what I do is I take a measuring cup like this, or you could use a glass if you wanted, and I just press this down into the pie plate. So I'll be back in just a few minutes after I get this pressed in, and then we're going to put this in the oven for 12 minutes. Well, here's the pie crust ready to go into the oven. And I can already smell the butter in it, so I just know this is going to be delicious. This pie crust is super easy to make, as you can see. I'm going to go ahead and pop it in my preheated oven at 350 degrees for 12 minutes, and then we're going to get started on the chocolate filling. Well, now it's time to make the chocolate pudding part for the chocolate pie. So I have here 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar that I already measured out. I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. I've got 1/3 of a cup of cocoa that's unsweetened. I have 2 tablespoons of flour, just all-purpose flour. And I'm going to take my whisk here and just stir this up before I put any liquid in. Reason I do this is I have found that helps with the clumping of the cocoa. Otherwise, you tend to get more clumps of cocoa, and this just helps blend it in good together before we start with adding milk. I have 1/3 of a cup of whole milk here I'm going to be adding. And then 1/4 of a cup of butter, or 1/2 a stick. Oh, I can smell that crust cooking in the oven. It smells so good. So now I'm going to go ahead and add in the 1/3 of a cup of whole milk. And I'm just going to mix this to combine. So I'll be back in just a moment. I already have my burner turned on to medium to start with, and I'll be back as soon as I get this combined, and we're going to go on to the next step. Okay, so I got everything nicely combined here. Richard, can you see into the pot so they can see how nice and smooth that is?
Yep.
Now I'm going to add my 1/4 of a cup of butter, or 1/2 a stick. So I'm going to go ahead and let that melt in here, and then we're going to let this cook for about 2 minutes, stirring quite often until it thickens. And then we're going to be adding some of the sauce to some eggs, and then we'll be putting it back into this to make the pudding part. I'll be back. Well, our chocolate here is starting to bubble up, as you can see, and it's starting to thicken. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the burner off. Now, if you don't have a heavy pot like I do here to cook in, if yours is a thin pot, I would recommend using a double boiler. This recipe didn't call for a double boiler, but like I said, if my pot wasn't a heavy bottom pot, I would definitely be doing this in a double boiler. So anyway, I turned the burner off, and now I've got 2 eggs here that I cracked, and I'm going to whip them up. As you can see, I took the crust out. It's just lightly browned. You can smell the butter in it and the brownness of it. You know how when butter starts to brown, that flavor? That's what I smell on that.
Smells good.
And that's always an indicator to me that it's ready. And actually, I had to cook this 2 minutes longer than normal. It's colder today, though. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it. As far as my product being cooler before I put it in the oven, it probably did. So always think about that when you're cooking. Do you smell it? Do you hear it? Because when I looked at this at 12 minutes, I did not hear it sizzling, and I did not smell that brown butter. And those both are indicators to me that my crust is ready to pull out for this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of this chocolate, and I'm going to temper these eggs. The reason I do this is because I do not want to have scrambled eggs.
Ooh, chocolate scrambled eggs. Sounds pretty good.
And by doing this, you're just warming up those eggs first. I'm making a little bit of a mess here too.
It's all right. You can clean it up later.
This is such an easy, delicious recipe that people always seem to really like. Yeah, now I can feel the bowl here, and it's slightly warm. So what I'm going to do, since my burner is still warm, I'm going to just move this off. And I'm going to slowly, I'm just beating this up real good. Just going to slowly add this chocolate egg mixture. Have you guys ever made a chocolate pie from scratch? If you have or have not, let me know. For myself, once I started making stuff like this from scratch, I don't like to go back to the other, unless it's some kind of a special dessert that calls for, for you to use like instant pudding or, a boxed pudding to cook before you do it. There are some recipes that you definitely use it in, but even our kids, they got to the point where they didn't want to have, the cooked box pudding on the stove. They always want me to make it from scratch, but I actually have a recipe that's super easy you do in the microwave. So I used to do that quite often at night when I was cleaning up from dinner, and that's what we would have for dessert. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to add in about a teaspoon, a shy teaspoon of real vanilla extract. The reason I didn't add that until now is because you don't want all of that flavor to evaporate out. There we go. And then half of a can of cherry pie filling. And the other half you're going to save to put on top of your pie before you serve it. So I just kind of eyeball this. I'm just going to kind of stir it up now that I got part of this out. Because you know how that gelatin part kind of falls to the bottom just from storing it. So you want to put just over a cup of this in. I would say that's not. And this is really kind of a nice surprise to the people as they're eating it. Oh, got a cherry in my chocolate pudding. It's yummy. There we go. So let me get another spatula here. And I'm going to pour this right in here. Let me get it so you guys can see it as I'm pouring. Hopefully I'll be able to do it without a problem. I think I need to move that just a little closer to myself so I can see what I'm doing here.
Good idea. I'll turn it sideways if you need to.
There we go. Now, if you had one of those deep dish pie dishes, all you have to do is double this recipe. And I've done that before. This is just such a delicious recipe. And probably most people have not had this before. There we go. So now this is to cook in an oven for anywhere from 25 to 35 minutes. My guess, mine's going to be 30 to 35 minutes today since it's a cooler day. So anyway, I'll be back at that time and I'll show it to you. The goal here is you don't want this to be totally cooked in the middle. You want it to jiggle a little when you're pulling it out, and then it'll finish cooking. But anyway, I'll be back in just a little bit. Well, look at this beautiful pie, you guys. Doesn't that look delicious? It smells divine. Now, you can see how the crust finished browning around the edges. And then I'm going to set this down because it's really quite warm. Richard, can you come over here and I want to show you this. The outer part, you can see how it's, drier than the center part. See how the center part's kind of glossy? I don't know if you can see that in the video.
I can see the edges of it by the
Yeah.
cluster glossy.
Right. No, they're,
that's the
this
light
is more, the
shine off
outer edges are more done than the center. This is going to continue to cook here as it's cooling. You don't want, I guess the point is you don't want this to be totally like the outer part when you pull it out. If you waited till that point, it would be overdone and it wouldn't taste near as good. But I got to share that with these cherries in here, it is delicious. So anyway, I got to let this totally cool. And then afterwards, we're going to decorate this together. And then we'll do a taste test as well together. I'll see you back in a while. Well, our pie is totally cool. So now it all looks the same. So after it cools, it will, solidify, but it's not going to be overdone. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put these cherries that I have left on top. Doesn't that look delicious?
Looks good, Miss Glow.
I did add a couple of drops of red food coloring into the cherries to make them a brighter cherry color for the top of the pie. There we go. And then just before you serve it is when you want to do the whipping cream. So what you would do is you would line the exterior part between the cherries and the crust with your whipping cream. You can do the real whipped cream or you can do the kind that comes in this, the spray can. Whichever is best for you is fine. I've done it both ways, and both ways are absolutely delicious. So I'm going to go ahead and take a slice of this pie for us to try, but I'm not going to include the whipping cream on decorating this because otherwise it'll weep for when we have it again. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and let me know if you've ever had a piece of pie like this before. It is just so good. And I'd like to thank everybody that has liked and subscribed to our channel and has been supporting us. We really appreciate it. And if this is the first time that you have seen our channel, I want to thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you later. Bye. Well, look at this, you guys. This is a piece of the Black Forest pie. I did put the whipped cream along the side here, and you can see the chocolate. Look how nice that cut out.
Looks good.
It's just, this is a great
Perfect
dessert
cut.
to share at Christmas. I mean, look how festive that looks. Let me take a bite. You can smell that crust. That chocolate is so creamy. Excellent recipe for the chocolate cream pie. And then those cherries on top with a combination of that chocolate. Let me try a little piece here with the whipped cream too. This is a double thumbs up. This is just an awesome recipe for Christmas. Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, it's just really a nice dessert. Anyway, like I said before, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. And thank you for all your support. We'll talk to you later and have a wonderful holiday season and Merry Christmas. Bye. Hi, welcome to Glow's Kindred Kitchen, and I'm Glow. Well, today I wanted to share a very special, let's start over.
Already?
Special too much.